We're going to start with Professor Molly Wilker. If you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then popcorn it to the next.
Great, thanks, Julie. I am Molly Wilker. I am an assistant professor of chemistry. I teach the physical chemistry courses, so that is heats of reaction or thermodynamics, kinetics or rates of reactions, and also bonding, spectroscopy, and instrumentation. And I also teach in the general chemistry program. And so if you come here in the fall, you would have the opportunity to take general chemistry, and I am teaching that in the fall. My research is in nanoscale materials, so very small particles, a billionth of a meter. That's a unique size for us to study. So we make materials of that size and then look at their properties. It's an interesting size regime because it is bigger than most molecules, but smaller than cells. And so we can look at that interface in that size area. I'm happy to answer more questions about my teaching or research later, but for now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Perez. I'm in the physics department, and I've been here 20 years. I teach in the undergraduate, basic level physics for algebra-based physics, and then I teach a lot of upper level courses. My research is in studying atoms and molecules using quantum. I do. So I'll turn it over. How about Scott?
Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Scott Carlson. I'm in the biology department. I also chair neuroscience and the global health majors, which is a new major we have coming online this fall. My teaching responsibilities here, I'm in my 20th year, just like Jim, we came the same year. My teaching responsibilities are for general biology. I teach in the cell and molecular part of the one-year sequence. I also teach a mid-level course in human physiology. So for those interested in any aspect of health outside of nursing, most likely I would have you in my human physiology course. I also teach an upper-level neuroscience course. And I'm involved in the neuroscience seminar also, which is the capstone component at the end of the neuroscience major. My area of research is hypertension, neural control of blood pressure, and what happens when it goes wrong and we have high blood pressure. And so I use a rat model of hypertension. We induce it through continuous infusion of cardiovascular related hormones to create that model, and then we look and see how different neural regions control and contribute to that. Oh, I guess I'll turn it over now to my colleague in the department, Dawn Redding.
Thanks, Scott. My name is Dawn Redding. I am in my 7th year, or going on my 7th year in the biology department. I am a wildlife geneticist by training, so that means that I kind of span both realms of field biology, so studying about wildlife, as well as the molecular side, so using genetic tools to better understand wildlife. And so the courses that I teach in our introductory biology series that focuses on ecology, evolution, and biodiversity. I also teach an introduction to GIS, that's Geographic Information System, so that's a mapping and spatial analysis approach. I also teach an advanced course in genomics, so using millions of base pairs of sequence data to understand systems, as well as vertebrate biology, so learning about some of the mammals, birds, reptiles that are found in Northeast Iowa. My research is pretty diverse, as you can imagine. I would say 2 key areas that I focus on right now is better understanding bats and how they are being impacted by wind turbines. And then also various ways of using genetic and genomic tools to better understand gray foxes, bobcats, white-tailed deer, and other vertebrates. And so now I'll turn it over to Christy Gould.
Hello, my name is Christy Gould, and I am the head of the psychology department, and I'm also part of the neuroscience program. I teach in a number of different areas, both within psychology and neuroscience. I teach general psychology. I teach a course called Brain and Behavior, which is for psychology and neuroscience majors. I teach a course called Animal Cognition, which is my area of research that I'll talk about in a little bit. And I also teach an upper level laboratory course in the psychology department on learning and behavior, where the students work with rats in our rat lab. And I also am part of the neuroscience seminar. My area of research is basically, more generally, my area of research is animal cognition. And more specifically, I'm interested in cognition and intelligence of birds in the corvid family. And the corvid family includes birds like crows, jays, nutcrackers, etc. So I'm interested in studying their cognition and intelligence. And I guess that's it. So I'm going to send it over to Tommy, I guess.
Hello, I'm Tommy Occupanti. I'm in the math department. This is going to be my 6th year here. If you roughly divide our department into a statistics piece, a pure piece, and an applied piece, I'm solidly in the pure piece. I teach all of the calculus courses as well as a variety, most of our pure courses at various points or another, but I'm happy to answer questions about my colleagues in the other areas as well. I'm also the faculty advisor for the Luther Association of Gaming, which does tabletop games, board games, video games, and various other sorts of things. So if you have any questions about that, I can humor those. And my research is in number theory. Anyway, I'll turn it over to Roman.
Hello, my name is Roman Yasinowski, and I teach in computer science department. I teach all kinds of computer science courses. Most of them systems courses, operating systems, networking, databases, security, and that's pretty much my research area, networking and operating systems. But now I do whatever students want me to do, what they do in the summer, and I go with that. And I guess that's going to be my 5th year at Luther, and I like it.
Awesome. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. To all of our participants today, if you have questions for our crew, we would love to entertain them. I'm going to get us started with just a couple, but please, again, drop your questions in the chat, either to the whole group you can if you'd like, or to me privately, either way. I will start with Scott. Why should a student in pursuit of a science or STEM degree decide on a liberal arts education?
Well, I can speak 2 things. One is out of observation, watching students for 20 years through this. One is through my own experience. I'm a product of the university system. In the university system, large college setting, you're taught to think a very, very strict way. It's not a broad training whatsoever. There's good sides and downsides to that. And I think as our society changes and with technological increases, it's increasingly important that we have a well-rounded education. And universities are starting to recognize this, and they're trying to emphasize the liberal arts education as well. And you'll see that in like the University of Iowa's website. They'll talk about the value of having a liberal arts education. And there's some intentionality on their end trying to do that, but the reality is when you're dealing with classes of hundreds, that you can't do that. One of the nice things about Luther is we offer an excellent STEM program for those heading on to whatever you want to do, graduate school, professional programs for health or other areas. But we teach you how to think in a well-rounded manner. You're going to take courses not only from the sciences, which my whole background was entirely the sciences, but you're going to have to take courses in the social sciences and the humanities. And all of that contributes to an understanding of how we learn. And you will be better prepared to learn than your colleagues from large institutions. And the research has repeatedly shown that. So I think that's what I would say in terms of the value of pursuing a liberal arts education. What drew me actually into the liberal arts was that I watched what my sisters had. They both went to liberal arts institutions. They had actually relationships with their faculty. They have small class sizes. I had hundreds in my class. I never saw the professor outside of lecture. My labs were taught by grad students. And so it was a very, very different educational experience. And when I watched my sisters and their experiences at liberal arts institutions, it really inspired me. I love to teach. We're dedicated to teaching. We like to research too, but we are here to be with students and to teach. And I think that's paramount to the liberal arts education.
Thank you, Scott. I'm actually going to throw this next one over to Tommy a little bit. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your involvement with students outside of the classroom. I know you had mentioned that you're an advisor for a group. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's maybe unique to liberal arts education as well? Oh, there we go.
Sorry, Luther's a very active campus. So from talking to my advisees and my students, I know everyone does a whole lot of things. And usually it's just, there are so many different things people want to do that they have to make difficult choices about which. But I'd say one of the things is if you go to, there are a lot of music groups on campus and you'll see lots of faculty at various performances for the music groups. And a nice thing about Luther specifically, as compared even to some other liberal arts colleges, is that all the faculty just about live right around here. So if there's any sort of event on campus that faculty are invited to, we'll be there. You will see us everywhere. So if that's a plus, it should be a plus, then you can look forward to that at Luther.
Can I have maybe, Christy, can I have you talk a little bit more about the advising experience with students?
Yeah, so at Luther, and probably at a lot of other smaller colleges like Luther, you are going to be advised by people, by professors in your department. At a larger university, sometimes they have people that are hired as advisors that help you pick your classes, etc. But at Luther, we have advisees that we meet with, and we help them plan their 4 years, the courses they're going to take. But we do more than that. We create and establish relationships with those students that can impact them and us in a number of ways. A lot of my advisees have ended up doing research with me. I've helped them connect with people to, you know, set up internships. And so we get to know our students one-on-one through advising. Whereas maybe at a larger institution, you know, you're not meeting with your professors in that same way. So I really appreciate the ability to meet one-on-one with students, especially in the advising role. It's a wonderful thing to have had a student for a number of years as an advisee, and just recently we saw them all graduate virtually, and it's, you know, it's a sense of pride to see your advisees graduating. You've been with them sometimes 4 years from the moment they stepped foot onto campus, and to see that they've fulfilled their goals and they're going on to have successful lives outside of college is just really satisfying.
Awesome. Dawn, I'm going to throw this next one to you. Do you think Luther is a good fit for students wanting to go into pre-med?
Yeah, definitely. That's sort of the nice thing at Luther, is that whether it's the biology department, pre-med, maybe you're going to choose chemistry. There's a couple of different majors that you could potentially choose. But every year we have a number of students that successfully get into medical school, physician's assistants, whatever it may be. So that's sort of the nice thing about having a focus on advising, because we really have flexible majors, particularly for biology. That's the one that I'm most familiar with. And so students can work with their advisors to make sure that they're getting the observation hours that they need to be getting in, the types of internships, job shadowing, to first make sure that that's what they want to do, right? That they know that they want to be a physician, or, you know, go on to med school. And so there's a lot of flexibility there, working with your advisor to make sure that you're hitting all of those marks. And Luther has a very good track record. I mean, we're a very competitive school, really good track record of getting students into medical school. And that's something too, I think maybe Scott Carlson could potentially talk a little bit more, because he is the pre-health advisor for Luther.
Sure. Yeah. So I do serve as the advisor for the pre-health club. I also am the representative for the medical college program, and I would say we offer all of the coursework you would need. We're highly competitive. We're one of the tops in the state in terms of our success for getting students in. I would also, though, follow that up by to say we do nothing magic. really comes down to the dynamics of who the student is. And so, but we offer all that you need to prepare you. We have an array of different clinical internships. We have a great January intern program where you will spend 40 hours a week working in a hospital, and it'll either be here in town. We have a trauma level hospital here that is staffed by the Mayo Clinic. We also have Gunderson and La Crosse, where you will live in La Crosse for the month and work 40 hours a week there, or work down in Des Moines in a medical practice there. And so we have a great track record, and I'm happy to answer other questions related to that.
Awesome.
Julie, could I just jump in and say one more thing about sort of the uniqueness of Luther compared to, say, a bigger university? I just want to say too, I feel like at Luther students get a lot of experiential learning that's sort of, I think, different than what you would experience at a big university. So most of the colleges that you're gonna, or most of the classes that you're gonna take in the STEM field are small. I mean, so you might have only 8 students, 12 students, you know, maybe at most 20 students in a class, particularly once you get into the more advanced classes. And so you're gonna be engaged in research right away. So it might be a semester-long research project that you're doing with you know, a couple of partners in class. And so you're really engaged in the scientific endeavor and learning how to do science and doing more open-ended research projects. And I would say whether it's in the classroom, or if you're doing research with faculty, I feel like it tends to be more collaborative. Not just, you know, faculty driven, like here's your project, this is what you're going to do, but recognizing that students come from diverse backgrounds and have a lot that they could bring to the table, and a lot of expertise, other coursework that they're taking. And so it's more of a collaborative research project, I think, experience.
Great, thanks for adding that, Dawn. Molly, I'd like to come to you next. How difficult will it be to pursue a degree in a STEM field while still following my other passions, such as doing choir at a high level?
So that is definitely possible here at Luther. We have a number of students who are involved in music, as well as student athletes that pursue in all of the STEM fields, pursue majors in all the STEM fields. So we regularly have chemistry majors that are scheduling their labs around their athletic practices or specific choral practice or rehearsals, or sometimes even multiple ensembles that they're involved in. Currently, I have a junior advisee who is both a music major and a chemistry major, which is a bit challenging with getting all of the puzzle pieces together with the large blocks of time for lab and the large blocks of time for all of her ensembles, but it is working and we are getting it done. And so sometimes it means a little bit of schedule flexibility, but it's certainly possible to do all of those things.
Awesome, thank you, Molly. Jim, I'd like to throw this one to you next. What types of research projects have you and your students been involved in? And what does that process look like for students?
Yeah, thank you. One of the things I will say right off the bat too is one of the strengths of Luther compared to a lot of liberal arts colleges is the varied amount of research we have. Like in our department, we don't all do the same thing. Every one of the members of our department does different research, from astrophysics to what I do with atomic collisions to high energy physics. So what happens for our research, a lot of our research gets done in the summer. So we hire students for 8 weeks in the summer. So the process is that they fill out an application saying who they would like to work with. And basically, if we have money, we hire them to do research with us. And that can start even in their first year, depending on their interest. So then, for example, my research, we have 2 projects going. And one is looking at buckyballs. How stable are they? What happens if a charged particle, a buckyball is a big 60 atom molecule? And we want to know how stable it is, how it breaks apart, what will cause it to break apart. When it breaks apart, does it break in big chunks or little chunks? And we have another project where we're trying to study the X-rays that come from the coma that goes around a comet when particles from the sun hits it, and they cause X-rays, and we're trying to understand that process. So we have usually each member of our department has 2 or 3 students working with us at a time. We usually have about 10 working with us over the summer, and then that continues on usually throughout the semester. You know, they don't work as much, but they do stuff throughout the semester, working towards their senior project maybe with the research. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, and it keeps me on my toes, having students working with me.
Great. Molly,
I
did you-
just wanted to emphasize just how special our summer research things are. And I've never been at anywhere else that has something like this. But our summer research things are very generous. We have lots of students doing them. And usually what that means is working with one of us 40 hours a week for 8 weeks over the summer, living on campus in a nice apartment with cooking your own food and not having to eat at the cafeteria. It's a really posh sort of setup. A lot of the people who do it have told me. And usually in the math department, I think most of us do such a thing every other year, and the model we've sort of settled on is having 3 or 4 students work together, so you get to work closely with other students. And then often what happens is people in their first or second year summer will do that with us, and then they'll use that experience to apply and go do some similar program in some other institution, which really helps if you want to build a resume doing that kind of thing. But even if you don't, I think it's a great experience that everyone should take advantage of, and we have a lot of students who do it.
Yeah, I wanted to add just a little bit about my research experience with students as well. A couple of other things that, in particular in chemistry, the summer research experiences and small classes in general are a great way for our students to learn chemistry instrumentation. In chemistry, we have a lot of very specific instrumentation that's important for going on to do any type of lab work, whether it's in industry or in graduate school. And so our students get a lot of hands-on time with those instruments and learning to set up new instruments and running different experiments than they would maybe get to in a teaching lab setting. And so I think that's one great thing about research in chemistry in general. And then the other piece I wanted to add to the research experience is that it gives students the opportunity to present their results as well, which is a great part of our liberal arts education, but presenting results either at the college symposium, so every semester we have a campus-wide symposium, but then also being able to go to regional or even national meetings to present results as great experiences for students.
Awesome. Thank you all for chiming in on that one. Roman, we haven't heard from you yet. Can I ask you, what kind of support is given to students that might be struggling in a class?
Absolutely. We have a special kind of program for computer science, data science. Those are called preceptors. And so we have students who successfully passed the class, and now they sit in classrooms, they meet with current students and help them go through the assignments without giving away the answers. They just work along with current students, and this is another angle, another way for students in a class to get help. They can get help from me, they can get help from a preceptor, they can get help from peers, and there are many different ways a student can be successful, and there are many different ways the same content can be explained, right? I'm probably good, but there are different ways the same thing can be told, and some students benefit from that, and many of them benefit from the fact that there are different ways to get help. So preceptor is another answer to that specific question. Thank you.
Does anyone else have something specific to their department or a more general approach?
Julie, I would chime in here that I would say that actually helping students that are struggling at some point in their academic career here is one of the real strengths of Luther, especially when you compare it to a big university. So where I came from, if you're struggling in a class, you might be able to get some help from some other students, but you're on your own. But here, I can't tell you how many times I've seen professors working with students one-on-one because that student is struggling a little bit to get them over whatever hurdle they're having at that time. But I think it's a real strength right here, not to give up on students that are struggling just a little bit at some point, but to help them through that.
Awesome.
So the math department has a math clinic that we run every night, Sunday through Thursday for a few hours, where there are some of our majors who will help you with any of your calculus homework or any of your other math coursework. And given that I do some of the tutor training for the non-math tutors, I would be remiss if I didn't also mention that we have a campus-wide tutoring program where they will find you a tutor for any class on campus. So that is something I often get requests for. Do you know someone who can tutor for Math 454? And then it's like, yeah, I guess I do. And then so I'll send it to them, and so they'll work it out. So actually, a lot of departments, as you're hearing, have specific groups for these things. But also there's a general campus-wide program. And given that you're here for a STEM talk, for a lot of you, you might not be thinking, I want to use that, but what you should be thinking is, I want to work in that position, because that's super fun. I mean, obviously, I guess we like teaching, so we're biased towards saying that it's super fun to help students do things, but it's super fun to work in the math clinic or whatever and help students with their calculus homework, and it looks fantastic on a resume, basically no matter what you want to do. So I really recommend it. And you don't have to be a math major to work in the math clinic. So even if you're a physics major or whatever, and you want to do that sort of thing, it's an opportunity that there are a lot of positions for, and I think it's really helpful for students.
Thanks, Tommy. I love that. That's great. I have a couple more questions here. And I think maybe, Scott, you might be the right person for this, but you can shake your head at me if not, and we can throw it to somebody else. What is the probability that an international student will get into grad school after pursuing a degree in the STEM field at Luther?
As far as, boy, maybe somebody else can jump in if you haven't encountered this too much. I have had grad students go on, so I don't know that they wouldn't. Part of that does in the sciences sometimes depend on funding sources and what the requirements are there. I don't know, Jim or Molly or Dawn, if you can, or Christy, you guys want to jump in?
I have a recent experience with a chemistry major that just graduated this year, who is an international student and is starting in chemistry PhD program in the fall. So yes, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, Scott, I think we've had several in the physics department. Physics is a little different too when you go to graduate school compared to some disciplines, but definitely we've had several international students go on to graduate school from physics. So
awesome. So could you actually each, maybe I'll start with Molly again, and you can kind of popcorn again to each other, talk a little bit about what, if any, what opportunities for study away there might be within your own department or within the STEM fields?
I might not be the best one to start with this. The chemistry department doesn't have any specific chemistry study away programs, while many of our students do study abroad. And that's another thing, as far as I talked about ensembles and athletics before, but scheduling around study abroad is something we do regularly. I have a chemistry major that's coming back from a year in Nottingham, and she is accomplishing all of her chemistry classes to graduate next year. So study abroad is common in science, in the science majors, but we don't have any specific programs in our department. So I'll maybe throw it to Dawn. She would have better answer.
Yeah, I think I would, clarify there is, so there's study away, which is a much broader term, I think, than just study abroad. And so in the biology department, I mean, I've taught personally 2 courses that are study abroad. So ecology of Ecuador, where we went down to the Galapagos, as well as to the Amazon and to the cloud forests to learn about the ecology and conservation of Ecuador. And then this J term, I led a marine biology trip. So it was scuba dive based. All the students, we got scuba dive certified in Roatan, so a Caribbean island off of Honduras, to learn about marine biology. And students did, we had a little over 2 weeks down there. So students did research projects down there. And then when we came back, they put together posters and gave a poster presentation about their research. So there's study away, study abroad courses like that. There's also some domestic ones. So Eric Bach in our department teaches Southwest ecology. So go to the American Southwest and do research over J-term as well. But for study away, I mean, that could also be, we have a Rochester hub now. So students apply to spend a semester in Rochester, Minnesota. And so that might involve working in the Mayo Clinic, or working for a startup company, or working for the city to help do mapping and GIS and sort of planning their urban areas, or it might be studying in the Gunderson Clinic or other places. So I think it's a broad term, and there's a lot of opportunities, whether it be study away or study away for a semester, study away for an entire year, lots of different opportunities.
Great. Anybody else want to chime in on that one before I jump to the next one?
I just want to say that our Rochester program is very, very good, and it took off, and now many computer science, data science students can go there. We had, 5, I guess, this semester. Of course, this semester was special, but they all enjoyed it. It's a real experience with Mayo, or it's a real experience with the city, like Don said. So that's a big thing that is going on.
I think I'd like to add too, I mean, we've talked about the study abroad or study away opportunities related to STEM. There are an array, and it's an amazing array of different opportunities for study away. And I always tell students, focus on the STEM if you want, but there's a lot to learn in life and a lot to see. So I have students going to Cambodia, to Vietnam. South Africa is hugely popular, going to study conservation in Ireland and Germany. I also took a group down to Roatan, which is off the coast of Honduras. We were right down the road from Don's class. We looked at tourism and the impacts on ecosystems and the clinic and poverty and the interactions there. So I think there's an amazing array of experiences that will help you in your growth, whether it's in the STEM field or not. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Awesome.
I wanted to echo what Roman said, that the math department also has had a lot of interest in the Rochester program, and it's only getting bigger. And the Mayo, you may not have heard of it, it's this huge medical facility that is like literally huge, and that when I was there, I had to walk 1.5 miles to get from one appointment to the other. So it is gigantic, and so as a result, they have an enormous amount of data. And so if you're the sort of person who's interested in using statistics or data science methods to analyze giant data sets and really have a huge impact in the world, you could not ask for a better place than doing a semester there. Also in Pure Math, the most prestigious study away program in Pure Math is the Budapest semester in mathematics, which is, as the title would suggest, in Budapest. And we've had good luck getting students into that. So that's a very powerful program that certainly looks very good. So if you're certainly if you're interested in like the most challenging math program you could possibly do as an undergrad, if that sounds the sort of thing that appeals to you, do the Budapest semester in mathematics, and we have students do that.
Awesome. Okay, Molly, I do have one for you, because I know you and I have chatted about this before. We in admissions get the question all the time. I heard that all of your science classes are taught by TAs.
So that is not true. That is not true. We all teach our own courses. We do have lab assistants. And so we have current students who have already completed a lab that will be working in the lab sciences, in the lab setting. So not in the lecture setting, but just in the lab setting, to assist the professor, who is also in there at all times, to help you with experimental setups, to help you to check your calculations, those types of things, because they've already been through that lab experience. And so I can also throw this to some of the other professors in the lab sciences about what their lab assistant experiences are. But we do have lab assistants, which are not only they're very helpful in the lab, but it's a great job once you've completed a lab. It's a great resume builder. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about their lab assistants in their program.
We utilize lab assistants in the majority of our courses. I have them in physiology, and I want to emphasize what Molly said. They aren't replacing us. They are working with us. They're helping with technical issues. It's a great chance for them to expand their knowledge. It's a great chance for them to build their resume. It's also a great chance for them to develop a unique relationship, with themselves and with myself, because I get to know them better in that context. I also have them help with leading tutoring sessions or review tables. And so it's a very, very valuable training process for them, and it serves a valuable function for the students in the class as well.
Awesome. Christy, I'm going to throw into you next. This is a little more general of a question, but I know I'm interested in STEM, but I don't know what to pick. How do you find a major? How do you decide on a major? And when do I have to choose by? That's a lot.
Yeah, well, there's, when people first come to Luther as starting their first year, they're going to meet up with an advisor in the summer to help them register for their classes. And we're usually told ahead of time of their general interests. So if you've got a student that's interested in some STEM field, usually they've got it narrowed down to maybe a handful, but I've had students that are interested. I'm interested in biology, neuroscience, psychology. I don't know which route to go. I'm also interested in potentially pre-med. So there are some tracks where we need to get you into certain classes, probably your first year. Like, for example, if you are interested in pre-med, we need to get you into the first year of chemistry sequence so that you can have enough of that to be prepared to take your MCATs at the appropriate time. So there are certain courses that we would want to put you in, but yet there's still going to be space to explore. So, while there may be sequences that we need to get you in that first year, is it the end of the world if you didn't get those your first year? Not necessarily. A lot of majors have structure, but they also do have some level of flexibility. So by taking that first year to kind of explore and take some of the, entry-level courses in those majors, students usually, after a few years of exploring, can start to, narrow down their focus and their interest. In some majors, it's possible, to jump into it your sophomore year, starting with the first courses. Some majors are not quite as flexible, but psychology, for example, neuroscience, for example, have some level of flexibility in terms of jumping into those and deciding to major in those even in your sophomore year. So you don't necessarily, what I usually do with students is we sit down and we map out the courses you would have to have if you're interested in pre-med, or if you're interested in bio or chem or neuroscience. But then if you're also potentially interested in some other courses, let's take a few courses in those areas. And let's keep you on track for a handful of majors so that during the first year and your second year, once you start to decide and hone in, you have the appropriate coursework. So you don't have to decide right away. You don't have to know coming in your first year what you want to major in. In fact, most people change their major. That is I think it's more uncommon for students to not, at least somewhat subtly change their plans. So it's definitely not something to stress about coming in your first year.
I did want to add, as a faculty, we really value flexibility. And so anytime a department wants to add a requirement that would make it harder to start in, say, the second semester of your sophomore year, there's a lot of pushback, and a lot of it really has to be justified. And some areas of knowledge just are set up in such a way that there's just no getting around that, but most of them aren't. And so most of our departments, I'd say the vast majority that I've interacted with advisees are very easy to sort of fit in. And one consequence of this is that you don't have to pick one area of STEM. There are a lot of double majors, and our institution is very flexible towards that. I'd say probably 80% of the math majors are double majors that have a second major, and sometimes that second major is physics or something that you would traditionally associate with it. But just as often it's Spanish or something that you would not traditionally associate with math. And so if you have various passions, and I think most of us have a lot of passions that don't necessarily fit together, you can easily explore, maybe not all of them, hopefully you can't explore all your passions in 4 years, but you can explore a lot of them. And so I think that's one of the pros of the way we've set up our majors as a campus.
Awesome. Anybody else on that one? Okay, so this is again kind of a general question for the whole group. Compared to other liberal arts institutions, what are some exciting and or unique aspects of Luther's science and STEM programs? Can any of you talk to maybe something specific within your own department?
I could probably jump in. I would say from the biology standpoint, a clear advantage is Luther's location. So our campus is situated right in the middle of wonderful natural areas. So we do have vans and we may go on field trips, but we can just walk across a small lane and we're in forests or we're in prairies or we're down the river and can see rivers. So we have a proximity and we have a lot of natural areas that are really close to campus. So we have really unparalleled laboratory opportunities, I would say. And then similar to that, I would say our indoor laboratories, I think, are very strong. I'm getting a message that says my audio quality is affected.
Yep, it's fine right now though, so keep going.
Okay. So I don't know how much of you heard, but I was just talking about the natural areas, right? And so 700 or more acres of natural areas around, and then great laboratory spaces.
Awesome. Does anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Can I chime in? I think it's applicable skills, right? When you go to computer science, you will graduate with something that you can use to build new applications, to build new systems. Even if you do minor in computer science, you still can apply that to your other field, to your other area. And if you get into the Mayo program, or if you get your internship with IBM or some other company, you will see how what we do here in classes is directly related to what you see in the industry. So your experience here will be very, very valuable for a company or for your job after college. So this is the value that you'll get out of Luther. The skills you learn here will be very, very useful after college, whatever you decide to do.
Julie? I would say that our facilities here are first rate. I recently, or a few years ago, I took my daughter on tours of other liberal arts campuses that she was looking at, and we would always compare them to Luther. The labs are great here, and I'll say particularly in physics, we have great equipment. So we teach students on the equipment they will use if they go off to graduate school, or if they go, let's say, into engineering, they'll be using the same equipment. So I really am happy with our facilities here.
I'll echo that we have first-class instrumentation in the department, and we also have really safe chemistry labs, which I think is something that goes right along with our facilities, that we have a lot of hood space. If you're taking organic chemistry, you're doing that organic chemistry in the hood where you're not breathing in those chemicals. You're learning all of the techniques you need to in a safe environment. And I think that's really important here, the facilities.
Okay, so we have time for one last question. And it is I actually love this question. This is fantastic. What is your relationship with your alumni? I'm going to open that up to whomever might want to jump in.
I'll say that our alumni, for example, this summer we went to a wedding of alumni. What we found now doing this Zoom stuff and Google Meet is in physics, we have a tea time, for example, every Wednesday. And our students meet, and so we socialize. We don't necessarily talk about physics. Now that we've been doing this by Google Meet, actually, we've had alumni coming back in to talk with us. So yeah, it's we have a great relationship with alumni.
Yeah, I'll just jump in that we keep in touch with our alumni, and in the psychology department, we bring back a lot of alumni who will come into class and talk about their work experiences, their graduate school experiences, their professional experiences. And that's been really beneficial to our students to see what someone who's graduated from Luther can go on and do and what they can accomplish, and what it's like out there in the real world once you have this degree. And so, you know, we enjoy keeping in touch with our former students and finding out what they end up doing and inviting them back to campus and having them connect with our students.
And I think I would jump in to add, I think this is a testament to the kind of community that Luther is. Having over 20 years watched students go elsewhere and here, and watching family, friends, kids go here and there, having my own kids, one go over to the East Coast, another one come here. You see over time that Luther has this unique ability to establish really deep communities that I don't see my friends' kids having, or my daughter having at her place out east. It's really unique, and I think it reflects what happens in the classroom, what happens outside of the classroom. And one of the faculty earlier mentioned, you know, you go to a music event, you're going to see faculty there. You go to a sporting event, you're going to see faculty there. You go to a coffee shop, you're going to see faculty there. We're going to run into each other, and it just sets the stage for these really, really close relationships. And that's what these alumni relationships are formed off of. So I think it's a great reflection of one of the really unique things about Luther versus a lot of other institutions.
Scott, thank you so much. That is actually an awesome way to end this session. I'm going to ask our presenters to hang on just for a second. We're going to do some parting notes for our participants here. We encourage you all of our participants, to check out our social media channels for more content related to these academic sessions, as well as heads up on upcoming academic sessions, student Q&As, and other things like that, other virtual opportunities for you. Admitted and deposited students, if you haven't yet, please join the Facebook Class of 2024 page. We'd love to have you on there. Again, if you just in the search of Facebook type in Luther College Class of 2024, it's a great place to connect with your fellow classmates, ask questions, get hooked up with people on Snapchat and all of the other social media platforms. It's a great place for that. We will reach out to you with a follow-up email containing contact information for all of our presenters today, so that if you do have very departmentally specific questions, that you can reach out to them individually. But also, if you have more general question, or you're really not sure who to send your question to, you can always send them to us in admissions, and we'll make sure that your question gets to the right place. So the email address for that is admissions@luther.edu. It's really super, super simple. And then the phone number, again, if you are more of a phone person, you want to chat with somebody on the phone, that's great. The number is 563-387-1287. So again, 563-387-1287, or admissions@luther.edu. So I want to thank everybody again for joining us today and attending today's session. We're looking to connect with you again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.